Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is happen. Let's take a moment and review some of the definitions or ways that we can use this verb. The first way you may encounter this verb might mean to take place or occur. So we might announce that something will happen at a particular time. We just mean it will take place at that time. A second way the verb happen gets used can mean to ensue as an effect or a result of an action or an event. As I thought about this second definition, I thought about a conversation I had with a student. This student missed a few days of class, and when this student returned, they were sort of complaining, I don't understand what's going on, and right? And I said to them, well, this is what happens when you miss several days of class, right? You've missed discussion, you've missed practice, etc. That was the result of the particular action. A third way you may encounter the verb happen could mean to come about by chance. You might think of this where someone brings up maybe a certain person, you're like, oh, I just happened to see that person or speak to that person. So it was by chance that it occurred. A fourth way the verb happen gets used can mean to be experienced by someone or to befall. So again, this might be a little similar to something taking place. Maybe it's a natural disaster that happened. This fourth definition, befall, has more of a negative meaning to it. Right? So this is not a good thing that is taking place or occurring, but again, something more negative being experienced. A fifth way you might encounter the verb happen could just mean to become of. This is a question I hear from my mom really frequently. For some reason, she'll think about someone I played soccer with growing up or someone I went to high school with, and she'll ask, whatever happened to, and then the person's name. She wants to know what became of them. So this could be, where are they living? Where are they working? Are they married? Do they have children? Right? And all of those sorts of things that might come from that. For now, you should know that happen is a regular verb. If you want to make the progressive form of this verb, all you need to do is add ing, and that forms happening. The past tense and the participle form of this verb can be made by just adding ed. Our base verb, happen, ends in that voiced in sound. This means the ed ending is just going to make a d or a d sound. I'm not going to add an extra syllable to the verb when I pronounce it. So the past tense and the participle form of the verb should sound like this. Happened. Okay? Now, let's take a moment and review some phrasal verbs with happen. The first is to happen across something. This might mean you are finding, discovering, or encountering either someone or something just by chance. So there's no planning or no intent to do something. An example of this might be, I happened across the coziest bookstore while traveling in October. Here someone is saying, I just found it by chance. I wasn't looking for reviews or looking at a map and trying to find this particular place. I just kind of, just out of luck, right, that I came across this. Another phrasal verb you might encounter is to happen along. This can mean that something or someone is appearing, arriving, passing, or coming upon, again, by chance. So not with any planning or forethought. An example of this might be, we happened along an old-fashioned ice cream parlor while walking around town. So again, the idea here is not, ice cream sounds good. Where's the nearest place? And I go and I find it, but just I'm strolling, walking around, and I encounter this. A third phrasal verb you might encounter is to happen on. Again, our meaning here is to find or encounter someone or something randomly, and that emphasis again is without planning. An example of this in a sentence. She has happened on some incredible murals while exploring rural areas. So here we're talking about kind of large paintings. And again, this is maybe not someone who searches for, makes a plan to go visit particular ones. She just happens to be in these places and makes this discovery. Our last phrasal verb, happen upon, can mean to find someone or something unexpectedly. An example of this might be, we happened upon my high school math teacher while visiting my hometown. So, didn't make a plan to do this. We just both happened to be in the same place. You can see all of these phrasal verbs have very similar meanings. There's just kind of this random luck occurring in all of these sentences. There hasn't been a plan to find someone or find something. Now let's continue using our verb of the day, and we will review a couple verb tenses as we go along. Today we're going to talk about the simple present and the present progressive. Let's start with the simple present. We use this verb tense to talk about our habits and routines. These are actions that repeat with some sort of known frequency. We can also use it to discuss facts. In the simple present, we must pay attention to our subject. If our subject is I, you, we, or they, then you just use the base verb in the affirmative or in positive sentences. But if your subject is he, she, or it, make sure you add an S to the end of this verb. Here's an example sentence. Something always happens when we make plans to host the group. So here, someone might be suggesting that idea of something befalling, right? So we make these plans and then a child gets sick. We make these plans and then there's a bad snowstorm. So the sentence is sort of suggesting that something is interfering with these plans. Something is singular, and that's why you see that S on the end of the verb. Now let's talk about making negative sentences in the simple present. To do this, we're going to start with our subject again, and if that subject is I, you, we, or they, we'll use do, not, and then the base verb. But if the subject is he, she, or it, we'll use does not, and then the base verb. You might also encounter the contractions don't or doesn't, and then the base verb. And you can see that in my example here. Healthy communities don't happen by accident. So here, this sentence is suggesting the lack of chance, right? They're saying this takes intention. It takes some planning to do. Finally, if you want to make a yes or no question in the simple present, start with either do or does, then we'll have our subject, and then the base verb. What I always like to point out to my students, notice the only time I'm adding an S to the end of the verb is in the affirmative when my subject is singular. So here's a yes or no question. Does this happen frequently? Right? So maybe we're seeing some sort of event or consequence to something, and we're wanting to know about the frequency at which it occurs. Now let's move on and make some sentences in the present progressive. Your teachers or textbooks may call this the present continuous, and that is just fine. It means exactly the same thing. With this verb tense, we're describing an action that is either happening now, right? There's my verb, or an action that is in progress during a time period that has not yet been completed. The reason I say present progressive with my students is 2Ps can help them remember they need 2 parts to make their verb. In this verb tense, we'll be using a present form of be and then the ing form of the verb. And because our present form of be has 3 forms, we've got to pay attention to our subject. So in the affirmative, if my subject is I'm going to use am and then that ing form the verb. If my subject is you, we, or they, then I need to use are, A-R-E, and then the ing form of the verb. Finally, if my subject is he, she, or it, I'll use is, and then that ing form of the verb. Let's look at an example sentence. The games are happening at the same time. So maybe we're discussing children in a family. A son is playing some sport, and so is the daughter, and both things are occurring at the same time. Now let's look at making negative present progressive sentences. To do this, we start with our subject, then we use the form of be that matches, so am, are, or is, then not, and then the ing form the verb. Here's another example. Adequate planning for climate change isn't happening, and it's putting communities at risk. We saw a sentence like this from public remarks an elected official was giving, right? And so that person is talking about what is not happening right now. And of course, this person went on to describe the problems that may occur. Finally, let's look at making a yes or no question in the present progressive. To do this, start with your form of be, then your subject will come next, then the ing form of the verb. So, an example of this might be, is anything fun happening today? So, anything is our subject. It's singular, so that's why you see the form of the verb there. If we wanted to talk about multiple events, right, I would change my form of be to are, A-R-E. So again, we're asking about something occurring today. Now let's move on and spend a moment looking at some words that are related to our verb happen. And the first word we're going to look at is going to look just like our progressive form of the verb, but we have the noun form here, happening. This is just describing an event or an occurrence. An example of this might be, have you read the brochure about all the holiday happenings? In fact, I've seen a few things posted online with that kind of terminology. So talking about various events connected to winter holidays. Now, this word happening can also be an adjective. When we use it as an adjective, we're describing something that is either fashionable or trendy. An example of this in a sentence might be, we need to find a happening place for your birthday celebration. Now, an important note. You might hear this adjective used in old TVs or movies, maybe a piece of writing or literature from a long time ago. I think it maybe is ironic. This word, happening, that might mean trendy, is no longer trendy. I think if you said it to teenagers right now, they'd like roll their eyes and think it's terribly uncool. But that's what happens to our language. It's always evolving. So one last word for us today. It's the noun happenstance. This is going to connect back to all of those phrasal verbs we discussed earlier. So something that is a coincidence. It occurs without that planning or forethought. An example of this might be, they were reunited by happenstance after not seeing each other for 50 years. I've seen wording like this, particularly when it talks about couples sort of meeting up after long periods of separation, and maybe they begin to date again in their 70s, 80s, or even beyond. So many of these stories revolve around kind of like someone didn't seek out the other person. but they just happened to run into each other at a particular place. Well, thank you so much for watching today's video. I am kind of curious, did you just happen upon this, or were you looking for something in particular? You can leave a comment and try and use our verb of the day here. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great day.